The oldest wood protection method ever used: smoke, animal fat, and natural tar. Long before modern paints, pressure-treated lumber, or chemical preservatives, people across the world understood one simple truth: wood lasts when it is protected from moisture, insects, and rot, without sealing it so tightly that it traps decay inside. From northern forests to coastal dockyards, ancient builders developed a layered system that worked with the nature of wood itself. This system relied on three elements that were always available: smoke, animal fat, and natural tar. When used correctly, this method allowed wood to survive outdoors for decades, even in harsh environments exposed to water and weather. Why early builders trusted smoke before anything else? Smoke was not used by accident. It was one of the first deliberate preservation tools humans discovered. When fresh or partially seasoned wood was exposed to slow, cool smoke, several things happened at once. Moisture content dropped gradually without cracking the fibers. Natural sugars near the surface were altered, making the wood far less attractive to insects and fungi. Smoke also deposited phenols and other compounds that created an inhospitable surface for decay organisms. For wood that was soft, porous, or still slightly green, smoke penetrated deeply. This made it ideal for posts, stakes, and structural timbers used in gardens, homes, and agricultural buildings. Smoking wasn't rushed. The goal was not burning, but curing. Wood could be left in smokehouses, above hearths, or in earth pits for days or even weeks, depending on thickness and intended use. Once smoked, wood was ready for the second and most important layer: animal fat. Fat was not just smeared on the surface. It was warmed gently until liquid, and then worked into the wood while it was still warm from smoking. This allowed the fat to move deep into the fibers, especially in softer woods that absorbed it easily. Historical records and oral traditions show that mixtures often contained between 50 and 70% fat from wild pork, with the rest coming from cows, deer, bears, and other animals depending on region. Wild pork fat was prized because of its density and stability. This fat layer, served several purposes. It repelled water while still allowing the wood to breathe. It also reduced swelling and shrinking during wet-dry cycles. But, most importantly, it denied insects and fungi the moisture they needed to survive. For wood used in ground contact, docks, and heavy outdoor structures, the fat application was often done twice, allowing full saturation. Why did fat work better than modern sealants? Well, modern sealants create a hard barrier that eventually cracks. When moisture gets in, it becomes trapped, accelerating rot from the inside. Animal fat behaved differently. It moved with the wood. It soaked in rather than forming a brittle skin. Even when exposed to sun and rain, it aged slowly instead of failing suddenly. Fat-treated wood could be renewed easily. Another warm application years later restored protection without stripping or sanding. This made long-term maintenance practical and, honestly, pretty sustainable. For wood exposed to constant water, like boats, docks, and piers, fat alone was just not enough. Ancient builders added a third layer: natural tar. Now, this tar was not petroleum-based. It was produced by slowly heating pine, birch, or other resin-rich woods in low oxygen conditions. The result was a thick, sticky substance rich in resins and antimicrobial compounds. Tar was used selectively. Boat hulls, submerged beams, and joints were coated before fat was applied, or sometimes left with tar alone in critical areas. The tar sealed end grain and joints where water intrusion was unavoidable. Fat was then added to flexible areas to prevent cracking. This combination allowed wooden boats and docks to survive constant exposure to water, ice, and sun. Some structures lasted half a century or more with periodic maintenance. Across different regions, builders added boiled extracts from certain plants to fat mixtures. These plants were chosen for their natural insect-repelling properties. Herbs, barks, and resins were simmered in water or fat, then strained and mixed into the final treatment. This practice was especially common in warmer climates where termites and wood-boring insects pose serious threats. These plant additions didn't just repel insects, many had antifungal properties that further slowed decay. How this method adapted to different types of wood. Softwoods absorb smoke and fat deeply, making them ideal for garden structures, posts, and fencing. Hardwoods, being denser, required longer smoking and repeated fat applications. End grain was always treated heavily, since it absorbed moisture fastest and failed first if left unprotected. Wood intended for strength, such as dock pilings or beams, was often seasoned partially before smoking. Why this knowledge faded and why it matters now. As industrial chemicals became widespread, these slow, labor-intensive methods were abandoned. Today, gardeners and builders are rediscovering these techniques for good reason. They protect wood without contaminating soil. They also extend the life of garden beds, posts, and structures naturally. They rely on renewable materials rather than industrial chemicals. Bringing ancient protection back into modern gardens. This oldest wood protection method is not about nostalgia, it's really about understanding wood as a living material. So, smoke stabilizes it, fat nourishes and protects it, and tar shields it where exposure is extreme. Together, they create a system that has already proven itself across centuries and climates. For gardeners building raised beds, trellises, compost frames, or fences, this method offers a durable, soil-safe alternative to treated lumber. When applied thoughtfully, it turns vulnerable wood into long-lasting infrastructure that works in harmony with the garden. If you want more deep, practical knowledge like this, subscribe and share this with others who care about building gardens that last. Ancient methods still have lessons to teach, and your garden is the perfect place to use them.